young love. I say this with a nostalgic tone, but I don't really know what the hell that's like. And that's why I watch anime. And that's why today we're watching the first 5 episodes of Don't Toy With Me Miss Nagatoro, taking a look at the interesting dynamic her senpai and Nagatoro seem to share, and see if it's worth watching from there. Stay tuned. Alright, well, let's get started with a brief summary, shall we? The show focuses around the dynamic relationship between Naoto, or senpai, and Nagatoro, usually illustrated through a couple of interesting scenarios. There's enough time to squeeze at least 1 or 2 of these scenarios per episode, and usually center around very naive or perverted situations commonly perpetrated by Nagatoro herself. For example, a find the nipple game, trying to guess which sweet roll is which by feel. Stuff like that. But that's what makes it so funny. Despite the almost raunchy behavior, there's still that childlike innocence and inexperience clearly present. And that's where the humor's at. Okay, let's talk about our beloved cast. The show, as I've said earlier, focuses mainly on Naoto and Nagatoro in the first couple of episodes, so we'll be diving into detail on them the most. When we are first introduced to Naoto, commonly referred to as senpai by Nagatoro, we see a very meek, frail, and colossally introverted individual. He is very much the type of person that is easily exploited and the kind people step all over on. He barely has a retaliatory bone in his body. He usually tries to handle Nagatoro's teasing by trying to ignore it and trying to remain calm throughout her verbal onslaught. He usually spends his free time at school at the art club where he paints and where Nagatoro comes to when she wants to bother him. To nobody's surprise, he is very shy around his interactions when it comes to girls, especially with the type of antics Nagatoro drags him into, though he is not without his own private perversions. He has shown to have a very caring personality, and has showcased this through the episodes. One example is where he, noticing Nagatoro succumbing to the oppressive heat while they wait in vain in line for ice cream, drags her off despite her initial protest in concern for her well-being. He's not a bad guy, and the more he interacts with Nagatoro, the more he opens up from his reserved demeanor. Oh boy, Nagatoro. She is such a gremlin of a human being. She is a very sarcastic, talkative, perverted, and sadistic individual. Initially, she bullies Senpai, probably seeing him as an easy mark, her hurtful words forcing him to tears. Eventually, she tones down the teasing as she starts to develop feelings for him. It feels like her teasing later on is more to get him to open up and interact with her. But make no mistake, she still pervertedly enjoys a good ribbing. She is clearly the tsundere type, harboring feelings to her beloved victim, but vehemently denying it should it be brought up. One thing to note, however, is that while she enjoys teasing her senpai, she is very protective of him, and will very quickly draw a line should anyone besides her step out of bounds with him. And yes, that even includes the friends she hangs out with. She is very fond of making these perverted party games she plays with our beloved senpai, and she seems to come up with even more extreme, activities every episode. But you can tell Nagatoro has her own limits as well. How do you know this, you ask? Well, I'm sure there are some tells. The music of this show doesn't really stand out to me. But then again, I don't personally recall music in any romantic comedy sticking out that much to the point of me wanting to listen to it beyond the show itself. But I'd like to think it meets some standard for the genre. I will say, at the very least, that I really enjoy listening to the opening song quite a bit. Now, the animation is good. You don't really need too much here. The level of movement required for shows like this isn't that demanding, and this isn't some shonen battlefest. The biggest key thing to take note of here would actually be Nagatoro's facial expressions. It is the most iconic part of her character and the manga. It's how she's identified, and transitioning that properly to the animated version is key to representing the source material accurately. And they do it well. I always crack a smile at how expressive Nagatoro is. It makes her expressions very clear to see, and to me, that's what matters most. They've nailed it. Yeah. So, now that that's over and done with, what can you expect from a show like this? A very interesting romantic development between two opposites of the spectrum. I initially thought I wouldn't enjoy where this anime was headed. I don't really have a thing for degradation, and I thought it was going to be that kind of show in the beginning, but was pleasantly surprised that the mixture of innocent/perverted dynamic between Senpai and Nagatoro is at the forefront of most of the scenarios involving them. It has the sweet, adorable romantic moments typical of romance anime such as this, but that's why we watch it. And I personally will continue watching the show show, as I've been greatly entertained. So how about you? Have you been enjoying what you've seen so far, or is it just not to your taste? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Until the next one. Oh hey, it's been a while. Sorry for the long hiatus. Life gets in the way sometimes, but I'm sure you know that already. Anyway, if you finished watching the season of Nagatoro and want more, you can always continue the experience through the manga, which it started off as. There are actually 10 volumes available in Japanese, and around 7 in English, so give it a read, and I'll catch you in the next one.